Hey everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also a co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. Welcome back and happy holidays. This is a very special No Streaming Required. It is our final episode of the year. I will be taking a week off next week, which is very rare for me. But I'm so excited to end this year with a bang. We are talking about some of my favorite labels, including the Warner Archive. We're exploring the Warner Archive. We are digging into 88 films, Radiance films. We have films fresh from theaters. We have highly anticipated 4K upgrades. We have so many things that I'm really, really excited to dig into. So I'll do just that right now. But as usual, if you want more of a deep dive on some of these titles, check out GeekVibesNation.com. Within a few weeks of this video being released, and you'll probably find a written review for most of these titles. But for now, I'll try to just give more of a broad overview of most of these, just so this video isn't 4 hours long. But still a lot to dig into. Got a couple dozen titles this week, and the first of which is fresh from theaters. From Universal is the 4K debut of Black Phone 2, the horror sequel to the pretty well-received Black Phone from a few years back. This sees the return of Ethan Hawke, which people who have seen the first one may wonder how he is able to return. The answer is we go even more full supernatural in this installment. We kind of get Nightmare on Elm Street-ish in certain situations. But it's an interesting continuation of this character, this new horror icon, the Grabber, portrayed by Ethan Hawke, still torturing and tormenting these young kids who thwarted him in the first movie. And this, we try to build up some extra lore about him and really get into his history and all that kind of good stuff, and how he is able to continue tormenting them in the afterlife. So there's some really interesting kind of extensions of his powers, and the film grows in pretty interesting ways. It suffers from some of the normal Blumhouse things of over-explaining certain elements and not kind of explaining the horror instead of showing, actually channeling actual fear. But I think the core of this film is strong enough that I had a pretty entertaining time. I'm not really sure of this switch from more kind of grounded realism, kidnapper tone of the first film towards more the supernatural side of things in the second film. I'm not sure if the second film is better than the first, but I respect what it was trying to do in extending this character. And if there are more installments, which there probably will be, I'll be interested to see how Scott Derrickson and the screenwriter, I believe it's C. Robert Cargill, how they explore this world and these characters and everything. It's a pretty solid sequel, maybe not quite up with the first film for me, but it's still very, very good, and glad to see it get a 4K from Universal. The first film received a 4K release quite a bit after the film's initial Blu-ray release, and that 4K release was a little bit problematic in terms of it being extremely dark, and kind of almost preferable to watch it on Blu-ray in that regard. I didn't find as much of an issue with that on the second film. The Dolby Vision kind of stays at a pretty good level in terms of brightness, really good shadow definition, deep black levels, really nice clarity and contrast. Everything holds up pretty well. So even if you didn't quite gel with the first film's 4K release, I think Universal did a better job with this second one, and it looks quite nice on 4K and Dolby Atmos audio. Very powerful and impactful when it needs to be. You get a couple of special features, including commentary track, deleted scenes, additional featurettes to flesh out kind of the making of this movie. Overall, Universal has done a nice job with this one. So if you're a fan of the first one, check this one out. And this 4K presentation is solid. Next up is from Lionsgate. in their release of the thriller The Long Walk, based on a story by Stephen King, directed by Francis Lawrence, who really kind of delves into similar territory as some of his Hunger Games films here, in which there is a public... there's a televised competition in which these young guys are kind of competing to win this prize for those who can last the longest in this walking competition. They have to keep a certain pace, and if after a couple of warnings they don't keep a certain pace, they get killed. So it's very kind of like dystopian, satirical look at the exploitation in entertainment culture and the kind of messed up nature of our society, in which we would put people who need it the most in kind of a scenario where they are having to fight to survive. It's a really prescient movie. King probably didn't know how prescient it would be all these decades later. But it made for a very, very good movie. I really, really like our lead duo here of David Johnson and Cooper Hoffman. They're dynamic with one another, and just their overall just kind of vibe. It's one of the most enjoyable things I've watched this year from a new release. They are going to have such promising careers. I've seen them deliver very good performances in other movies, but they really, really shine in The Long Walk. And it's a really thrilling, heartbreaking movie, very tough to watch at points because there are just a lot of like teens and young people getting killed for entertainment value and stuff. But it's very heartbreaking as you come to know these kids along this kind of scenario, and over these couple of days where they are walking and just kind of struggling to survive, how it ultimately kind of ends up very heartbreaking, but very impactful. And I really, really thought it was a well done movie. I'm glad to get this on 4K. It really looks really nice. Dolby Vision, Dolby Atmos audio. Looks like texture wise, very, very stark and clear. The Atmos is immersive when it needs to be. There's not a lot of like huge like set pieces or anything, but whenever the action needs to kind of be more immersive and like kind of give you a kick, it does that. Also with this 4K release, you get a few extra special features. The Blu-ray release does come with the documentary that's pretty lengthy for a modern movie. It's about a 75-minute making of documentary along with the trailer and stuff. But on the 4K disc, which you can get in the standard version or a steelbook version, you get additional special features, including an alternate ending, an appreciation piece on Stephen King, and a piece with Johnson and Hoffman, kind of reading out some scenes and stuff. So it's not only the AV bump that you get with the 4K, but you do get some additional special features, which is cool. Both the Blu-ray and 4K versions, you get that really, really impressive making of documentary. This one is a really, really solid, has a solid spot and one of my best films of the year, like probably top 20 or so. Very, very good movie, and really glad to see this one. And yeah, good audio-visual presentation, great special features, rock-solid release from Lionsgate. Make sure to check it out. Really, really great movie. And I wasn't planning this transition, but it works very well. We go from a Cooper Hoffman movie to a Philip Seymour Hoffman movie, his father, in Boogie Nights from Warner Brothers, the long-awaited 4K upgrade. Paul Thomas Anderson, who this year just is probably going to win an Oscar for One Battle After Another. We are going back to one of his earlier movies, one of his earliest, not his absolute earliest, but one that really put him on the map. This story starring Mark Wahlberg as a up-and-coming, struggling young man who is very well endowed, who begins to make his way in the porn industry, and just how he kind of gets himself in that world, all the people he meets, and kind of the found family he kind of discovers, in addition to kind of the debaucherous lifestyle and bad decisions that are made over this 2.5 hour epic runtime. It's a fascinating movie. I hadn't watched it in many years. I used to watch my DVD copy from back in the day, my Platinum Series 2-disc DVD, quite a bit, and I really liked the movie. It had been a while since I've seen it, so watching it on 4K was a really, really nice experience. The movie's still amazing, and I'm glad it got a 4K upgrade. I know I've read online that people find this particular 4K disc a little bit controversial. That's because apparently Paul Thomas Anderson, just based on his personal preference, seems to want to go for a more one-to-one of how this would look as like a projected film in comparison to like a crystal clear like home entertainment presentation. So for that reason, it appears that he got this new 4K master is derived from a 4K scan of the interpositive, which means they didn't go back to the original camera negative because they wanted to keep that kind of fuzzy film-like quality of an interpositive. So that's a little bit closer to the theatrical presentation. So people who are coming to this film looking for a crystal clear presentation that's like tack sharp and getting all of the nuances of the picture, you may be a little bit underwhelmed. You may view this as almost kind of like akin to just a normal Blu-ray presentation, but you will find if you go back to the original Blu-ray presentation, which is a VC1 ancient transfer and codec, this 4K presentation, while not super sharp, it is very film-like and it resolves very well, and it keeps that filmic intention. And you also have a better sense through the HDR10 presentation of a controlled highlights. So you highlights aren't blooming as much. Everything's much more contained and impactful in the picture, and everything is just more. It is what PTA wants to put out in the world. It just may not please everyone who's wanting like a clear 10 out of 10 visual presentation. It's very, very good and accurate to what the filmmaker wants, but what the filmmaker wants is sometimes not exactly what home entertainment enthusiasts want. So I understand people who are kind of disappointed or think like, oh, it's not that much better than the Blu-ray. But if you can get an incremental upgrade from that Blu-ray and what this does look like on my screen, it looks really great, and I'm overall very pleased with the presentation. But if you're not, I completely understand. You just want different things out of the format, and that's perfectly fine. But if you do just want kind of the most faithful kind of film-like presentation, the 4K is definitely going to be your best bet. And with the HDR10, which this does not have Dolby Vision on disc, the streaming version does have Dolby Vision. That is kind of a pet peeve of mine with Warner Brothers catalog titles. Warner Archive manages to use Dolby Vision whenever they do their 4K disc, and some of their manufactured on demand discs get Dolby Vision, but whenever it's coming directly from Warner Home Entertainment, we get HDR10 on catalog titles. So that's a little bit disappointing, but the HDR10 still holds up very well and it looks good. Just a minor nitpick. Another thing that I've seen people point out is that the digital listing mentions that it has Dolby Atmos audio. This has DTS 5.1 audio. I have not checked out the streaming version, and I'm not exactly sure if the Atmos track is legit or like a file that has all the actual Atmos tracks firing, or if it's just a listing that maybe says Atmos, is probably but maybe the 5.1 soundtrack with like phantom like overhead sounds and stuff like that. So I'm not exactly sure if that's like, I'm just glad that the original theatrical soundtrack is available, and I think most fans of the film will be. But those who want kind of the most out of their audio system, maybe you redeem the digital code that's in here and test it out if you're interested. But this just does have the DTS 5.1 track, and that is the original theatrical audio track, and it sounds really good here. In addition to the audio-visual presentations, it carries over most of the previous special features. I think it's missing the original trailer, but you do get 2 commentary tracks, You get various featurettes and extended scenes and deleted scenes and stuff. And you get 2 new special features, which are part of the same program. There's 2 panels that were held with like an anniversary, like the Warner anniversary a few years back, that add up to about 51 minutes of newer material that wasn't on previous releases. So that's also a really nice upgrade in terms of special features. So maybe not a home run of a release for everyone, but as a fan of this film, I'm really glad to have this in the best presentation possible through Paul Thomas Anderson's cinematic intentions. Really glad to have it. Looks nice, sounds good, and some great special features from Warner Brothers. I think it's a good release. If you're a fan of the film, you should check it out for yourself. I think you'll be pretty pleased with it, with your expectations in check. And now is when we start exploring the Warner Archive for several titles. We're going to do our deep dive into one of my favorite labels, the first of which from this month's selection is I Love Melvin with Donald O'Connor and Debbie Reynolds. This is a vibrant musical in which Debbie Reynolds plays an aspiring young performer and Donald O'Connor plays a reporter who convinces her that he can make her a star. And we soon learn that he's not really he's kind of a nobody at his paper. And so it's just kind of like a comedy of errors in terms of like what like her expectations of what her career can be, him kind of like pumping her full of like extravagant ideas about her life, but him not doing it in a malicious way, more so in kind of a kind-hearted way to keep her from kind of making other bad decisions, and things just kind of spiral out of control. But this does lead to like tons of interesting musical numbers and pratfalls and all that kind of good stuff. This is a pairing again of the 2 of the Singing in the Rain main players again, and while not as anywhere near as good as that movie, it's still a quite fun, vibrant time. There's a really interesting musical sequence in which Debbie Reynolds plays a football, like she is portrayed as a football that's being kind of like shuffled around during a musical number between different like football players and stuff like that. So she's like kind of a life-size football that's kind of going around, and it's a very ambitious, crazy, acrobatic musical number that's a lot of fun, and it's just, we don't make musicals like that anymore, and just kind of there's just a real kind of wholesomeness to these types of movies that, while I love modern filmmaking and stuff, there's just something whenever I dig into the Warner Archive about some of these movies that just makes me feel really good of just like old school filmmaking techniques and just what they were able to accomplish practically. It just, I don't know, it's soul nourishing in my opinion. So if you feel the same way and you just like a good kind of lighthearted musical, I Love Melvin. Very much worth checking out. And this got a really nice restoration, a 4K restoration of the Technicolor camera negative. Looks fantastic. Whenever Warner Archive is dealing with the Technicolor, they know what they're doing, and they always combine it with complete care, and everything looks very vibrant. All the colors are popping off the screen. No blemishes, anything like that. The Warner Archive just always manages to make everything look impeccable. And the audio soundtrack has been cleaned up quite nicely as well. And everything's like no popping or any distractions or anything like that. In terms of special features, you get a deleted sequence that wasn't used in the movie, some cartoons, and a trailer. Warner Archive did a really nice job with I Love Melvin. So make sure to check it out if you're a fan of musical comedies. Another musical movie, but not always comedic, is the pretty dramatic Interrupted Melody. And here we have Glenn Ford and Eleanor Parker. I don't want to give out too much of this movie, but if you read the description, you'll kind of learn more about it. But it's about a talented young woman who kind of works her way up from kind of meager means to become kind of an international star and kind of like the opera scene. And her voice is impeccable, and she starts to have a romance with kind of an up and coming young doctor played by Glenn Ford. And then they things start to happen once they become romantically entangled that really starts to impact the both of them. There's some life comes at them fast. That's all I'll say. And just how this movie plays out and seeing them trying to make the most of their situation. It's very impactful. And I think Eleanor Parker, she does a really nice job in this role. It earned her an Oscar nomination. There's lots of great singing here, great production value, really great chemistry between the two leads, and there's emotional moments in spades. Just a really nice dramatic picture. And so if you're into kind of like melodrama, interrupted melody, I think it's a good one. I like Glenn Ford, so he was really good in this. So make sure to check it out. This has got another great restoration. This one is from a 4K restoration of the original camera negative. Looks pretty immaculate, as I'm going to say that about most of these Warner Archive titles, because motion picture imaging always does a fantastic job, and good compression and encoding, everything is great. So looks good, sounds good. You get some cartoons and a trailer. Overall, if you are a fan of these performers, make sure to check it out. Interrupted Melody, worth your time. Going even further back in time, we have the very interesting On Borrowed Time with Lionel Barrymore and Sir Cedric Hardwicke. This one is a heartfelt tale about an older man and woman who are taking care of their orphan grandson. And whenever there's a manifestation like of death as a person who like comes to kind of help people like move them along to the afterlife. And one day death comes for this older gentleman played by Lionel Barrymore. But he tricks death into getting stuck in a tree. So it kind of makes him able to prolong his time on Earth to take care of his grandson, who's in the middle of like potentially trying to get this other kind of not so great woman's trying to take custody of him. So he's trying to stay on Earth to help his grandson out. But this kind of causes problems because death is not on Earth anymore to kind of take the people that he needs to take. So there are people who are like getting very sick and are in pain who cannot pass on to the afterlife. And it's really interesting how this movie portrays death as almost a kindness. It's almost like it is more humane for people to die in certain situations, and how the absence of death impacts like kind of society at large. But then there's also it also kind of creates a little bit of tonal whiplash in terms of what we expect from movies and how this movie actually ends up. I won't ruin anything, but I was very shocked by the conclusion of this movie. But it is ultimately presented in a very heartfelt way and an emotional way. And I liked it overall. It has a very kind of sweet, kind of charming innocence to it. But it does go about it in a very unique way that I think kind of needs to be seen to kind of roll it around and see how you feel about it. But definitely worth checking out. On Borrowed Time, a really nice discovery from Warner Archive. They're very good about doing that. And they've been treating this one very well with a 4K restoration of the best preservation elements. So even though the original camera negative may have not been completely intact for this to be used for all of the movie, it looks very, very good. If you told me it was all from the original camera negative, I would have believed you. It looks very nice and consistent. The film grain resolves naturally, no nicks or scratches. Everything looks about as good as you would expect from the Warner Archive, and very, very pleased with how this looks overall. No downturns, really. You get 2 radio adaptations of the story on this. You get a cartoon, you get a short film, and a trailer. Overall, really well-rounded package from Warner Archive of this charming but kind of sad tale on borrowed time. Worth checking out to just see all the wondrous twists and turns of this movie. I think it's worth seeing for yourself. Next up, we go to our first of 2 Errol Flynn movies. This one was actually scheduled to release last month, but kind of got delayed for production issues. Production gets very backed up near the end of the year around the holidays. So now we finally get Silver River with Errol Flynn and Ann Sheridan, in which Errol Flynn starts out as a good guy who's trying to do the best for his Union Army, I believe. And he kind of gets screwed over by them. And then he becomes a bad guy for a little, not kind of a complicated guy, I would say, as he kind of goes off on his own and kind of becomes almost king-like and within this town in which he's running this silver mine, and like he's very powerful in this town. And he's kind of needs to be at times pulled back to the side of like morally good. And it's how that is done is through friends and a woman, and played by Ann Sheridan. And it's just interesting to see his dynamic as like a charming, overly confident guy who has a heart underneath everything, but it's kind of been damaged by people treating him badly. And yeah, it's just a really solid melodrama if you're an Errol Flynn fan. It's been a good year, and this is another great addition to that collection of films. This one's been treated well with a 4K restoration of the nitrate original camera negative. Looks really, really beautiful on Blu-ray. Really happy with how this looks. No shortcomings that I saw at all. The sound has also been restored and looks really nice, or sounds really nice. You get some cartoons on this one and a trailer. So yeah, if you like charming Errol Flynn antics, and with morally gray implications, Silver River is worth checking out. Same could go for our second helping of Errol Flynn. And so, like I said, Errol Flynn fans sitting pretty. This time we have San Antonio. So this time we have him with Alexis Smith. And this time we're going more towards Western fare, in which he is an aggrieved man who is trying to come back into town where a kind of an evil force has really been kind of screwing over cattle owners, and he aims to prove that he has been doing people wrong and clear his name and fall in love with this sultry singer played by Alexis Smith. If you like a good Western, Errol Flynn, despite not being from America, plays a really good cowboy and just a really charismatic figure. Really good shootouts in here, some great stunt work, horse riding, all that good stuff. It delivers what you want from a Western, so if that's your bag, San Antonio will treat you well, and it's another great restoration from Warner Archive. 4K restoration of the original Technicolor negative. As mentioned, Technicolor films at Warner Archive are a marriage in heaven. It looks really, really beautiful on Blu-ray. No shortcomings I could find at all. And you get a short film and cartoons and a trailer. So yeah, really liked San Antonio from Errol Flynn and Alexis Smith. Well worth checking out. I think my favorite of the movies this time around was this melodrama, The Valley of Decision, with Greer Garson and Gregory Peck. Greer Garson plays a kind of lower class, I believe Scottish housemaid who goes to work for a very wealthy family who works in the steel mill racket, and one of the sons is played by Gregory Peck. He's kind of the most level-headed and kind of the family, but she kind of starts to really gain affection for the family, while her father, who is played by Lionel Barrymore, again, this time in a not so, he's very pleasant and on borrowed time. He is not pleasant in this movie because he feels very wronged and he wants vengeance. So there's definitely kind of this rivalry between, kind of one-sided rivalry between families, and Greer Garson's kind of like seeing what this family that she has been told is evil is actually like. And there's all kind of like power struggles regarding unions and stuff within the steel mill kind of complex. It's a whole thing. But the main thing is, I love Greer Garson, and she is fantastic in this. And I really, really like Gregory Peck as well. So seeing one of his earlier roles is a treat. It is melodramatic, and it is pretty long, right at 2 hours long. But if you like a melodramatic romance full of like characters acting very poorly and doomed romance and all that good stuff, this movie's got it, and I enjoyed it. So The Valley of Decision, good melodrama, good times from Warner Archive. They've done a really, really great job with this restoration, 4K restoration of the best preservation elements. Once again, I see no issues with this. Everything looks great. I would not be able to tell it wasn't all from the original camera negative. It looks fantastic. It looks really, really good. Sounds good as well, especially for the time. No major humming or popping or anything like that. You do get special features, including a cartoon, a short film, a radio program, and a trailer. Overall, Warner Archive once again knocks it out of the park, this time with The Valley of Decision. Very, very happy with this release. Now, still keeping Warner Archive, we're going to the first of 2 Hanna-Barbera releasing in the same month. So giving you some great options for the holiday season for family fare. The first of which is Lippy the Lion and Hardy Har Har, the complete series. I think I had heard of these characters before, but this isn't one that, like, these aren't some of the heavy hitters of the Hanna-Barbera universe, but I grew to really love them in quick succession. Like, Lippy the Lion here, he's kind of happy-go-lucky and always kind of scheming and stuff. And Hardy Har Har, he is a hyena who is very down in the dumps and very pessimistic and stuff. So very kind of almost like droopy dog kind of coded, but very funny, dynamic. All of these, there are 52 episodes on here, but the episodes are like 5 minutes long, so like each short is like counted as an episode. So you can go through these pretty quickly. I wouldn't recommend binging this or the next cartoon just because things can kind of get a little bit repetitive after a while. But if you're like me and you like kind of recreating like a Saturday morning cartoon block, you can just like grab a few different Hanna-Barbera collections, program like an hour's worth of different cartoons and stuff every Saturday and feel like a kid again. But either way, these are fun characters and I like their adventures and stuff. And this has been treated very well in terms of being preserved well. This has been given a 4K restoration from the best preservation elements. This is very similar to Touche Turtle from a few months ago, where there are some episodes that don't look as amazing as other due to the elements that were available for preservation purposes. But on the whole, throughout these 52 episodes, things are remarkably consistent, and the colors are great, the line work is nice, everything has been kind of conformed to be as complete and intact as possible, and everything looks really good and stable. There are a few things here and there that may not be practically perfect, but on the whole, getting this series like in this form is an incredible feat. And I'm very happy with how Warner Archive released these. Great for animation fans, a great discovery for more unknown Hanna-Barbera, or at least deep-cut Hanna-Barbera characters. So if you generally like the Hanna-Barbera universe, Lippy the Lion and Hardy Har Har, some great characters, lots of laughs in this, very clever. Really enjoyed this set. Also, within that universe would be the complete series of Wally Gator. This character is a little bit more well known. Still not like maybe like Flintstones and Yogi Bear level, but still a pretty known character. And of an alligator who lives in the New York Zoo, always manages seemingly to get out of the zoo to go on adventures because he's very curious about the world. And usually by the end of the episode, he's wanting to get back into the zoo just through all of his adventures. Another 52 episode series that are same situation, about like 5 or 6 minute long episodes, and all together on 2 discs here. Really fun. I think out of like the shows that I talked about, like Lippy the Lion or Touche Turtle, Wally the Gator, once again 4K restoration of best preservation elements. I think this one's the most consistent, and everything holds together really nice. Beautiful colors. Everything sounds pretty nice as well. Just a really, really nice restoration of a really funny show that, once again, maybe don't binge it, but in terms of just like a great animated show, Wally Gator, really good release from Hanna-Barbera and Warner Archive. No special features or anything, but just having these episodes in such great quality is a win for fans. So super happy with Warner Archive. Wally Gator and Lippy the Lion, great way to close out a great year from the Warner Archive. And there's even more stuff on the horizon, 2026 that's already been announced, that I'm so excited to cover in the new year. So Wally Gator, the complete series, make sure to check this one out. Transitioning from the Warner Archive, but staying in the world of animation, we have from A24 a television series, which is rare for them, at least on physical media, of Hazbin Hotel Season 1, the Prime Video original series. You got a really nice slipcase here. I had heard of this show. I believe we have a review of the first season on Geek Vibes Nation from one of my beloved colleagues, Michael Cook. So I was interested after editing his review and knowing that this series was out, but I'd never been able to check it out. So receiving this on Blu-ray, which is 8 episodes from the first season, that's the entire first season of this Prime Video series, I was glad to kind of get it back on my radar, because this turned out to be a really fun show. This was a kind of a collectible card that came with it. This was in plastic, but I took it out so that you can check that out. You also got a fold out poster that comes with it. So watching these 8 episodes, I had a lot of fun. This isn't an adult animated series, so there's cursing and references to sex acts and stuff like that. So just be aware this is more not intended for kids. But if you like kind of like dark, clever humor, this is worth checking out. It is set in hell. And it involves kind of like the princess of hell, who is trying to, is tired of kind of what it was previously yearly culling of like the denizens of hell, so they don't get like too many people in hell to kind of lead an uprising against heaven. It's kind of a scenario that happens. So there's this Hazbin Hotel where she wants to kind of rehabilitate some of the damned souls in hell in order to get them back, or to maybe get them accepted into heaven. So it's very kind of like trying to change the dynamics of heaven and hell within this world. And it leads to some very humorous moments, because these people are in hell for a reason, and there's not always the easiest to make them a good person. But she has like her girlfriend and various people helping her. And she goes against very different, like kind of bureaucratic type obstacles and everything. Lots of zany dialogue, some good musical numbers. Like the pilot episode alone had a really great musical sequence that I was like, oh, this is really well written and sung and everything. Some really fun voices in here as well. People like the girlfriend is played by Stephanie Beatriz from Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So I was glad to hear her, and then other notable names. So this one goes by pretty quickly in terms of binging, and I did not get tired of it. Great animation, funny story beats, and intriguing, and it's already aired its 2nd season on Prime right now, and I believe it's been approved for 2 more seasons through season 4. So this is one that I think will be around for a little bit. And I always love when a streaming series gets a physical media release. That is amazing. And they make it worth your while on this one. And not only are the episodes, which were released in recent years, look beautiful in HD, amazing line work, no compression artifacts, anything like that. Beautiful soundtrack that sounds great as well, with the DTS 5.1 audio. Also, every episode gets a commentary track, which is a really cool addition. So they make sure to put some effort into this one. So Hazbin Hotel. If you like adult animation and kind of like dark humor, this one's worth checking out. It's a good effort from A24, and I just keep the streaming series coming to physical media. That's the ethos of this show. No stream required, so I don't want to have that subscription service to watch shows like these. So Hazbin Hotel Season 1, very much worth adding to your collection. Now heading over to some Hong Kong cinema, start over at 88 Films. Still staying in kind of like a supernatural ethos. We have Saga of the Phoenix. This is a really nice release from 88 Films. Nice thick box in which it's about a story also dealing with kind of supernatural entities. And this is... I did not know this, but it's actually a sequel to a movie I have not seen, so I may have been missing a little bit of context. That one's called The Peacock King, I believe, which I don't know if it's received a physical release elsewhere. If you take this out of the box, you have the reversible cover art, which I've already reversed. So a lot of like kind of supernatural entities and kind of like creature characters that are brought to life practically, like puppets and stuff, and kind of almost like angel and demon type situation. It's really outlandish and kind of like this is more apparently, from what I've read, this is more of a children's film compared to the first film, which is a little bit more adult oriented. There's a lot of kind of like scenarios that are, while kind of over the top and kind of absurd, is made for children tonally. It really is one that appeals to kids. So be aware of what you're getting into in terms of like, if you're attracted to more like serious Hong Kong fare, this may not be the best title for you. But if you need kind of a tonal shakeup compared to kind of the deadly serious kind of like martial arts films, the Saga of the Phoenix, it's an interesting story. Now that I know it's a sequel, I didn't know that as I was watching it the first time. I'd be interested to check out that Peacock King. But as is, I enjoyed this as its kind of own standalone story, even lacking some character context. And so, yeah, glad 88 Films released this one. It has been given a 2K restoration of the original camera negative. In the original Cantonese, there is no English dub. You get some nice special features, including a commentary track, alternate footage, interviews, and more. This looks pretty solid on Blu-ray. Most things look pretty clear and crisp. There are like some scenes that look a little softer, but overall this is a really nice transfer. Cantonese audio sounds pretty strong, no major popping or anything. Maybe a little humming here and there, but overall sounds really good, and the special features are really nice. So if you like kind of more off the wall, like kind of supernatural Hong Kong films, Saga of the Phoenix, worth checking out. It's a really good package from 88 Films. Next up from the label, we get more traditional fare. We get more action-oriented, like more intense with On the Run, the 1980s film. I believe it's 88. I could be wrong. But this is a pretty violent movie in which the inciting incident is a detective's ex-wife, getting murdered by an assassin, and our detective tracking that the woman who did it down, only to learn that there's more to this whole situation than it looks upon first blush. Maybe that this woman who committed this assassination isn't as bad as she seems. But there may be some people on his police force who are not to be trusted. So this film is very violent. This has like a ton of like grisly headshots. And some of the stunt work is insane, as you expect kind of from Hong Kong cinema. They seem to go for really dangerous stunts, which for our enjoyment purposes is great. For them, probably terrifying. But great action, some decent twists and turns within the narrative, not always unexpected, but well established. And I like the dynamic between the lead characters, the assassin and the police officer. Overall, this was a nice surprise. It's like very upsetting, violent, action packed, but very entertaining. So On the Run, if that's your bag, make sure to check it out. This one's also been given a 2K scan of the original camera negative. It looks pretty nice. Great detail, great, nice saturated colors, no crushed blacks or anything like that from what I could tell. Everything seems pretty stable, so I think most will be very pleased with how this looks. Original Cantonese audio, no English dub, 2 commentary tracks, some interviews, and an alternate ending. Once again, 88 Films, knocking it out of the park. This On the Run, really good release and well worth checking out if you like kind of like a bloody Hong Kong action film. Speaking of violence, we go over to one of my other favorite labels where there's plenty of that within Blood of Revenge, the Japanese drama about a gang, an evil gang who tries to take out a leader of a rival gang without them wanting to to connect back to them. But that they don't completely immediately kill this rival leader, who is a pretty good, morally upstanding guy. But this does kick off kind of like a whole situation in which these gangs are kind of very suspicious of one another, and there are some evil people, like individual evil people within each gang, who are kind of working to secure their own kind of reason for this kind of gang warfare. There's a whole thing with like one of the gangs having control over construction rights and stuff and cement and all this kind of thing. But it's all really a kind of a power struggle, obfuscating the facts of like who is trying to wrong who. This does sound pretty standard for the genre. This was written in really, really well, and I was captivated the whole time. This is one of my favorite films I've watched in recent months from Radiance Films. I thought it was just how this kind of kept escalating, and seeing characters who you start out the film like really hating certain people, but then seeing how they evolved as the movie goes along, and just seeing people like sacrificing themselves for their morals and all kinds of stuff. Just fascinating, and really, really like how this worked out. Really cool Blu-ray from Radiance Film. It's making its worldwide Blu-ray review debut. It's from an HD transfer provided by Toei. This holds up pretty well. I didn't notice any major shortcomings that maybe Radiance could have like cleaned up. This holds really well together. I didn't notice any major scratches or nicks or anything like that. I think the transfer that the Toei gave them holds up very well. The original Japanese soundtrack also sounds really good. This has been given a short film and a visual essay. So if you're a fan of kind of like gangland dramas, like Japanese gangland dramas, this is one of the better ones I've seen. I really, really love this one. So check out Blood of Revenge, an early film from Tai Kato. This one rocks. I really like this one. So Blood of Revenge, make sure to check it out. Going in a completely different direction from Radiance Films is the absurd comedy OC and Stiggs, once again with OBI strip, which I'll remove and show off the case. This is, in a baffling turn, a Robert Altman film, which I love Robert Altman, and this one kind of has a notorious reputation. And it just doesn't seem like the type of movie he would do. But then if you really dig into it, and kind of understand more of what this movie's going for, you can kind of see it, based on kind of, Altman's interest in satire and how he's used that, like in movies like MASH and stuff. What appears on the surface to be just kind of like a buddy comedy, about like two guys getting into mischief, which it is more, a little bit more complicated, and what Altman is trying to kind of accomplish, because at this time this was being made, there were a lot of these types of films being made, and just kind of about like people like running amok and just like skating by on life, and just doing all kinds of things and saving the day and being cool and all that, and being very charming and everything. OC and Stiggs, on the other hand, two characters created by people from the National Lampoon. Altman tackles this as kind of like an anti like buddy movie, in which you don't really like these characters that much. They're very obnoxious, and how they act are is very abrasive a lot of times. And while there are things that are funny and stuff throughout this movie, I think Altman was really trying to create a satire of those types of movies with this movie. So while it does hit a lot of those tropes, I think he was trying to like poke fun at this type of movie where like everything's very exaggerated and ridiculous and stuff. And he's doing that within the framework of these characters who you kind of despise a lot of the time, but are still interesting enough to follow. I'm not sure if it all completely works, but with that kind of context, it's interesting to view that and see how Altman was trying to play within the genre and recontextualize the genre. Because at its core, it is a movie about two guys who are trying to get vengeance on one of their neighbors who's very wealthy and runs like a very successful business, who has wronged one of their family members, and they're just trying to get one over on this guy. And there's a lot of subplots and everything. There's like a very young Cynthia Nixon as a love interest at one point, and there's just a lot going on. Like Harry Dean Stanton's in this. A lot of familiar faces in here, and a lot going on. I don't think this was very successful at the time, but you get a lot of information about kind of what this film was and the process of making it in a really, really in-depth documentary that's on this, that runs 2 hours and 9 minutes long, which is amazing. I love seeing any kind of deep dive documentary where people may make a snap judgment about a movie, but when you get a deep dive documentary like this, you can really like explore how this movie even came to be, what its legacy is, all that kind of stuff. And I really love that. So really glad Radiance was able to commission that. And you also get another 11-minute kind of interview with, and the visual quality is good. It's from an HD master provided by MGM that had been restored by them. So it had been restored and it looks nice. Natural film grain, no major blemishes or anything. Overall, really good transfer, and it sounds good as well. So honest, like if you look at it on first blush, this may seem kind of an odd film for both Altman and Radiance films, but when you dig into it, OC and Stiggs is worth just kind of exploring this unique film in an auteur's filmography who is, you could never really pin down, and I love that about Altman. So, yeah, great transfer, nice special features, OC and Stiggs. Make sure to check it out if you are brave enough. Next up, we have a quartet of new Blu-rays from Universal of the great Claudette Colbert, which I'll try to get through pretty quickly. We have I Met Him in Paris. We have Skylark. We have Zaza. And we have Maid of Salem. So go through these. I Met Him in Paris is probably my favorite of these four, in which you have Colbert playing a woman who has been saving up her whole life to go on a international trip to Paris, meets these two men while she's there, who end up absconding with her to Switzerland. One's very stuffy, one is more so pursuing her and very charming and stuff. But he ends up being the one who is the married one. So there's all kinds of like interpersonal romantic developments within here. And Colbert plays a woman who I really love, who just kind of like, she is very independent, and she's like rebukes like a man early in the movie in a way I really loved. But it's a rom-com with like pratfalls and all that kinds of stuff. Overall, solid movie, and I'll dig into the AV presentation here in a little bit for all of these. But next up we have Skylark, once again dealing in kind of romance, this time with Ray Milland in tow. This time she is already married, but she is a wife who is taken for granted by her husband, who's a successful businessman played by Milan. She gets to the breaking point where she's kind of like going to leave him, and it all kind of like spirals out of control from there, of just like ultimatums she gives him and counter proposals that he gives her to try to like win her back and stuff, and all the stuff she does to make him jealous, all that kind of good stuff. So it's classic rom-com stuff. Skylark, pretty decent rom-com, and watching these four movies so closely together just like solidified my love of Colbert. If I didn't have it there already, I definitely do now. Zaza is more romantic drama, in which Colbert plays a very talented performer who falls in love with the man, who once again ends up being married, and all the drama that comes from that. Some nice melodrama in here. Great acting by Colbert. Herbert Marshall also is a good counterpart to her. Really good release, and a good movie. And my final movie is Maid of Salem. And this one's pretty easy to describe just because it is Claudette Colbert, put in the context of the Salem witch trials. So it's a movie about the Salem witch trials, and there's a little bit of romance with Fred McMurray in here as well. So what can I say about these four titles? They're from Universal. They are from their manufacturer on demand program. But these are press discs. These are not burn discs. But these are just kind of made in kind of more smaller batches. The thing about the Universal like catalog releases is they are not Warner Archive. They are not giving these as meticulous releases with like lavish presentations and special features and stuff as Warner Archive. These have been restored and they look good, but there are still blemishes. You will see some shortcomings in some of the materials, and I just don't think they're ever going to be ones who just go the extra mile to make these like 10 out of 10 pristine presentations. But for Claudette Colbert fans who've been wanting these in HD, these largely look pretty amazing, and very nice textures and film grain and everything. You'll just occasionally see a shot that's not completely like sharp, and you will see like kind of cigarette burns or like little scratches, or like a sequence where you may have like a vertical line that lasts for like 30 or 45 seconds. So you'll see things like that, where with another label like Warner Archive Resources may have like cleaned up such a thing. You just didn't get that here. But overall, looks good. Sound is decent. Maybe a little bit of popping here and there, but overall sounds good. No special features for any of them. So yeah, these four films from Claudette Colbert. If you're a fan of Colbert, this is probably the best we're going to get for these titles. And they are solid. They're good. If you're comparing them on the same week where I'm covering Warner Archive, they just pale in comparison. But I love Colbert, and if you do too, these four films worth checking out from her. Going over to Sony and their Sony Pictures Classics line, we have our most recent international feature Oscar winner, I'm Still Here. I believe that's from Walter Salles. And starring Fernanda Torres, who won a Golden Globe for this performance. Set in Brazil, set during it's a period piece dealing with kind of like the communist regime dictatorship in which a family is rocked to their core when their patriarch is kind of picked up by the government. I don't want to spoil any things, but he's not seen for quite a long time, if ever. You'll have to watch the movie to figure it out. But just having this sudden like person who is so vital to this family suddenly plucked out of it, and just like you're given no answers from the authorities. They are kind of unilaterally using their power to kind of just do whatever they want to anyone who potentially is a threat to them. And that's just kind of the framework we're living in. And it's a very scary situation in which like a government with unchecked power, what they can do and how it can really crumble a person's like integrity and like framework within themselves. And it's very heart-wrenching to see like how all these members of these family react, and how they continue, how things even start to escalate for them in terms of what they're trying to, like the suspicion that is cast on the whole family. Very heartbreaking, very powerful drama. It was one of my favorite films of last year. I was heartbroken whenever it came out as a DVD only earlier this year. But I'm glad that Sony corrected what I felt is a mistake by giving this a Blu-ray release. It looks really nice on Blu-ray with a nice HD transfer. It might have been asking too much to get a 4K release, but having it on Blu-ray is enough for me for now. I'm really glad to have it in a nice transfer. Sound is good as well. And then you get some special behind the scenes featurettes on here. Nothing too crazy, but just having this on Blu-ray is a win for me. Anytime we can get newer Sony Pictures classic movies on Blu-ray is a win. I hope they continue doing that for us. But I'm still here. Very important movie. Like I said, recent Oscar winner for Best International Feature. Well worth all the acclaim. One of the great movies of last year. Really fantastic. So check it out on Blu-ray. If you haven't yet, make sure to get it. It's one of the best you'll see, probably in recent memory. Sticking with Sony and going over to a 4K release, we have the 20th anniversary of Rent, which the last time I saw it was probably 20 years ago when it first hit Blu-ray. But this is based on the acclaimed long-running stage musical. I've never seen the musical like stage version, but I've seen the movie before. And I know people usually like crap on this movie and they think it's awful. I don't think it's awful. I think it's not a great movie, but I think it's a decent movie. I don't think the reasons I find this bad are to do necessarily with the movie. I just think the songs aren't all like captivating. They're pretty good. Like the Seasons of Love that starts out the movie, and there's like refrains of it throughout, is a earworm. I often like kind of sing that kind of around the house with my wife. But then like La Vie Boheme and like Candle are pretty solid, but like it's just not a musical that's really latched on to my consciousness. And so in terms of like, oh yeah, like this song and this song and this song, I'm very basic. One of my favorite things I viewed it several times in recent years. Like I'm a big Hamilton fan, and I can like name every song of that one, and it's like ingrained into my DNA. But Rent isn't quite there yet, and I don't think it'll ever get there. Also, its subject matter is pretty depressing. You have people dealing with like landlord issues, AIDS, drug addiction. It's just a really rough movie. But I do like these characters, and I like these actors. Like Jesse L. Martin is fantastic. I first saw him, I think, here, and then he graduated eventually. I saw him a lot on Arrow, the CW show. Rosario Dawson, love her. Tracy Thomas, Idina Menzel. Just so many good people. Taye Diggs. So many good cast members in here, and my affection for the ensemble made me feel for their characters more, but there were some emotional things that happened that didn't completely hit me on a deeper level. But I did overall find it an entertaining watch. Also enhanced by this being set almost exclusively around Christmas and New Year's. So really great Christmas movie, unexpectedly. Glad to watch it like a week leading up to Christmas. It's a flawed movie. I know. I know a lot of people who are fans of the stage play do not like it. But I think it's flawed for more like it doesn't grab me the entire way. But if you do like the movie, I think you'll be pleased with this 4K release. It's a nice uptick from the previous Sony Blu-ray, which came out like I think whenever this movie first released in 2006 on Blu-ray. This 4K presentation, 4K master in Dolby Vision, looks really, really good. The Christmas lights look nice and vibrant, nice details. Everything looks really nice in terms of like no black crush. Everything seems to be in good working order. Dolby Atmos track and a DTS 5.1 track. Atmos track sounded really good. And the original track is there as well. You get a commentary track carried over. There's no new special features, but you get a commentary track, a nearly 2-hour making of documentary, which just like between that and like some of the like things I talked about earlier, just like thinking back to how studios used to treat special features and they put so much work into them. Like having a 2-hour documentary is almost unfathomable these days. There are a few films that like will kind of get there, but it's very rare. So just having having an almost 2-hour documentary, I love that. And then you get some deleted scenes and stuff. So it doesn't come with a Blu-ray copy. You get a digital code in the 4K disc. But if you're a Rent fan and you want it in its best presentation, this is a solid release. I do like the movie. I don't love it, but I like it. And there's some really great songs. So worth checking out if you're a fan of this musical. Now, going into my last two titles, we have some heavy hitters and also controversial 4K disc from Steven Spielberg. The first of which we have is Catch Me If You Can, Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks. DiCaprio plays Frank Abagnale Jr. and in which he was a notorious con man who got by within this movie. They say he got by with like flying, like becoming an airline pilot, being a doctor, just conning people out of money and just living like all before he was 20 years old. I think the actual truth of the matter is a little bit murkier in terms of he didn't really do much of what is said in his book, but I won't dig into that. In terms of what this film accomplishes, very entertaining story. Tom Hanks playing an agent who is like pursuing him doggedly for years and trying to track him down and stuff. Great cat and mouse adventure. Spielberg is an awesome filmmaker. I'm not telling anything new to anyone, but he does a great job like constructing this. He puts a lot of his signature heart into this movie. And also this is another stealth Christmas movie in terms of like there's some key scenes set at Christmas. Great cast of like people who like would soon break out in bigger roles, like Amy Adams and Jennifer Garner, and a lot of good people. You have Christopher Walken as Frank's father, Frank Sr. Really great turns all about. So good movie. 4K release. I've never owned this on Blu-ray before, but there is a Blu-ray disc of the original Blu-ray disc is included here for the special features. So this 4K release, 4K disc movie is all on its own. Given the way that the cinematography of this film looks, it's kind of like has like kind of a dreamy effect and everything. It looks really good as intended to its source most of the time. But where we fall a little bit short is in the encoding from Paramount, which is unfortunately problematic a lot of the time. Some shots look amazing. They look incredible. They look detailed, colorful, everything you want. Then there are some like shots of like highlights and stuff where things get pretty blocky, which is unfortunate. But overall, it evens out to a mostly really good presentation. But I just wish Paramount, it's been a constant refrain. I wish they would just do put more effort into their encoding and make everything an A+ release and have people actually have confidence in their releases, that'd be great. But that's not what we get here. We get an imperfect release that is really, really good, but definitely room for improvement. But still, comparing it to the old Blu-ray, it is an improvement from that. So if you don't own this film, this 4K release is a nice upgrade for sure. If you do own the previous Blu-ray, if you're a big fan of this movie, I think it's still worth the upgrade. Even if it's not like a home run, it's still very good. It carries over all the special features that are on the Blu-ray. As I mentioned, it's the same disc. So you get lots of featurettes and stuff that, like I said, old school releases like this used to have a lot of these. So packed with special features and featurettes and stuff of making of the movie. So catch me if you can. Really good release, just imperfect. Unfortunately, standard for Paramount. So check it out if you're a fan of Spielberg. And my final Spielberg and final title is the sci-fi classic Minority Report, in which Tom Cruise plays a law enforcement agent who works in a precog unit where they are supposed to predict crimes before they happen. And then he is, his name comes up as going to be a perpetrator of a crime that has not happened. And he has to kind of go try to figure out and clear his name, all while being on the run for being this future criminal. Some great turns in here. You got people like Colin Farrell and Samantha Morton and stuff. Just a really thrilling, like, Tom Cruise vehicle. And I really enjoyed checking this one out. I know people will be disappointed. What's new? With how this looks in terms of the kind of saturation of this. This looks a little bit closer to the DVD, which had... This movie employed a very specific bleach bypass process, in which things are supposed to be a little bit more desaturated. I talked about this process. If you want to go back to the beginning of this year when I talked about the grifters, I go into that a little bit there. But this movie isn't supposed to be super colorful. So while not exactly like the DVD, it's a little bit closer than the previous Blu-ray at least. So it'll make some people very happy that it is closer to its intended look. But then other people will be disappointed that their 4K looks a little bit dull or kind of like almost monochrome. But it does look really nice. And some really nice textures and everything. This encoding wise, I would say this holds up a little bit better than Catch Me If You Can. And DTS 5.1 audio, so some people may be disappointed that you didn't get a Dolby Atmos upgrade, but at least you have the really rocking DTS 5.1 track. So overall, I think based on how it's supposed to look, this is a really nice looking 4K presentation. But then some people who casually watch 4K releases may be a little bit disappointed with how this looks. So similar to Boogie Nights in that situation, in which like maybe it's not as like super crisp and like tack sharp and stuff as you may want it to be. But in terms of how it's supposed to look, I think Minority Report looks pretty damn good. So really glad to get this upgrade of this one. Tom Cruise, like in his prime, doing good work. Spielberg also just knocking it out of the park. Minority Report's a lot of fun, and I do like how this looks and sounds. You also port over. It's important to note, I want to like bring it back out, that this film has a 4K disc for the movie with the movie is on, and then you have a Blu-ray disc, just special features. There is not a Blu-ray disc for the movie on here because the original Blu-ray release was a Blu-ray disc for the movie and a Blu-ray disc for special features. So now you get a 4K disc for the movie and a Blu-ray disc for special features. No Blu-ray disc for the movie is included in here. That is different from the Catch Me If You Can release, which does have a Blu-ray release of the movie because that was only ever a one-disc Blu-ray release. So you're not getting a Blu-ray version of the movie in this release. So plan accordingly. If you want a Blu-ray copy of this movie, it will not be in this release. You have to buy that separately. So just be aware of that. But you do get the Blu-ray disc full of special features, packed with special features. You get documentaries and featurettes and interviews and all that kind of good stuff. that the original release was packed with. So you get all those in nice AV presentation. So in terms of Spielberg representation on 4K, another 2 releases, maybe imperfect in some eyes, but still, if you're a Spielberg fan, you're going to want to add it to your collection. And I think you'll mostly be pleased with these releases. They're pretty fun. So that is my show. I hope you have found something that you're interested in checking out. If so, please leave your comments in this comment section. Let me know what you're most interested in checking out. Make sure you share this with anyone that you know loves physical media. Make sure to collect all your gift cards you get for the holidays and apply it. Get you some new physical media for your collection. That's what I'm buying with mine. But make sure you like this video and you're subscribed to the Geek Vibes Nation YouTube channel. I love doing this for you every week. I always have a blast, and I hope you get something out of it. For all those who have supported me throughout the year, thank you so much. Your support means the world to me. I will be back in the first Tuesday of the new year, but as I mentioned at the top of the show, I will be taking next week off, and hopefully we can all relax as we close out the new year. I hope everyone has a very safe into the to this year, and a very happy new year. But thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back again in 2 weeks, but until that time, enjoy these movies.
Strange, isn't it, that the career of Greer Garson is so closely identified with the heroines of your most popular books? First, there was the never-to-be-forgotten Mrs. Chips. Then Elizabeth, in Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice. Mrs. Miniver gave Greer Garson a real opportunity, and she won the Academy Award for the Best Actress of the Year. Greer Garson gave life and excitement to Paula in James Hilton's Random Harvest. Then came Madame Curie and Mrs. Parkington. And now, a magnificent story, a best-selling novel, gives Greer Garson her best chance of all, Mary and Marcia Davenport's The Valley of Decision.
Here's where you belong. Right here.
I don't, Paul Scott, I don't.
You love me, Mary, you know you do.
And if I love the ground you walked on, there's nothing can come of it.
Marry me, darling.
Paul.
Marry me.
Paul, I'm a servant in this house. This family's good to me. Do you want to see me make them a laughing stock and people to call me a scheming, conniving...